Hello everyone and welcome. Yes, my name is Arafire and welcome back to another episode of All Talk, No Shock. So today I'm going to talk about Legacy, and it's fair to say Legacy is in fairly full swing now, wouldn't you say? It's now the fourth instalment, really hanging on to the coattails of the War for Cybertron trilogy. With this we haven't really got a TV series, a Netflix series. Netflix did not pick up or choose to go with a Netflix TV show. So we just have a toy line, and it's been okay, maybe. The figures we got maybe aren't up to the class that we now expect from the War for Cybertron trilogy and the Studio Series 86 line as well. We have been spoiled. I myself, particularly a Masterpiece collector, as you can see, even dabble back into the Chug line because it was so good under the War for Cybertron trilogy. It felt like not everything was a home run, but everything really had improved. So when Legacy came along, we felt this really would just be a continuation. The designs are very much the same. But what is concerning is we're starting to see more and more QC issues, more and more things that are going a bit wrong. That's what we're going to talk about today.
All talk, no shock.
So with this, we have to look back at some of the tail end of the figures from the War for Cybertron line and how you got this very interesting crossover of some characters being released in War for Cybertron trilogy and then also released at the start of Legacy. Galvatron comes to mind, Blaster as well. But you also have Retgar. Now Retgar as a Chug figure was really, really good. I've got a copy of it, very happy with it. But we did hear of some loose tolerances with that figure. Not very much, but we did start to hear of it. And this is where I think you start to see a little bit of the decline into Legacy. Perceptor in the 86 line wasn't particularly bad to my understanding, and neither was Blaster as well. But then you start looking at what is coming up, you're starting to hear of a lot more of tolerance issues. Starting to hear of loose joints, yellowing on some figures. This has been discussed with some of the Bumblebee figures. That Ratchet that came out is starting to yellow already. That's barely been on the market 6 months. And I wonder if we're starting to see a little bit of cheapening from Hasbro, and it's starting to impact on their good work. So where this really comes into the realms of disappointment, you have to look at their upcoming Menasor. Now this is the first time in what feels like a real long time that Hasbro are going to take a stab at combiners. And we've seen Dragstrip and now we've seen Wild Rider as well, but now we're also going to see the upcoming Motormaster. Now this looks really good. Now we've seen Motormaster combine with his trailer to form the shell of Menasor, and we look at the back of Menasor leg. That's a familiar sight, isn't it? It's the Combiner Wars technology, and look at the gap there as well. Gaps is another thing. Now gaps aren't a QC issue, but I do think it's all part of the same story. We're starting to see Hasbro easing off, slacking off. We're going back to primitive technology. It's maybe a stretch to say, maybe that's quite accurate, to make something work that really they should have advanced by now. Also, a quick shout out to Jamie on Transformers The Show, who recently did a mini review on the repaint toy deco of Cyclonus from the Kingdom line. Now, the Kingdom Cyclonus was heralded as a tremendous figure, and I certainly love it, absolutely adore it. Did start to hear some yellowing on the paling thighs, the silver thighs starting to turn yellow, but by and large very, very good. However, Jamie said on Transformers The Show that it was starting to feel a bit cheap when you held the two in hand, and it felt like a cheaper form of plastic. Not necessarily a bad application of paint, but it felt a bit inferior. And this is where I'm starting to think, are we seeing Hasbro slack off? Okay, elephant in the room, is this down to the global crisis? I know, which one? But if we're thinking Hasbro are cutting down on plastic screening and just having cardboard boxes house their figure, okay, that's one way of saving a bit of money. Is it really outside of the realms of possibility that we've got so many gaps everywhere on our Chug line figures now to save plastic, to save production, to then go that step further yet again and to cut back QC issues all the more to save any figures that would otherwise be discarded, not meeting a threshold for quality control, and say, do you know what, that's good enough, have a wonky blaster. And that goes out now, and it saves Hasbro more and more money in the ever unstable market. It is all production, it is all costs, it is all ones and zeros. Where I think this has a big downside. Hasbro will not care what their reputation is. It's a bit like Disney. They will sell regardless. Who cares? It's not like a third-party company, not like a Fans Toys and X-Transbots, a DX9, although they're not around anymore, where reputation is everything. If you're looking at Hasbro, reputation that they have recently built up to get the likes of myself collecting Chug again, they would have got used to that income, they would have liked that praise they've been getting, and if you're going to start cheapening your product where people like myself, I'm not saying myself, but people who aren't hardcore Chug collectors, who then withdraw from the Chug market, they have just hurt themselves in the long run for the sake of a bit of saving. Is it worth that saving? Is it worth that damage of reputation and undoing that hard work that War for Cybertron did and built up and maintained to throw it away in legacy because it's not up to snuff? It's worth saying I think it's a little unfair on the consumer. We've been asked to pay more for these figures over time. Again, picking on Motormaster, he's a commander class starting at £90. That's quite pricey. And if you're starting to see withdrawals in quality now, it makes you question the purchase. It makes you think, is this the company I want to back? Is this where I want to get my Transformers fix from? And hey, if you don't get it from Hasbro, you're going to look at third party. It's an uncomfortable situation to be in. Yes, of course, everything is increasing in price, but it doesn't mean to say you have to cheapen out on quality. Not when we've had it so good. It's been a great time to be a Transformers collector. It seems such a shame that we've gone through a purple patch and maybe we're starting to see a decline. But what do you guys think? Have you experienced some quality control issues with your Chug figures of late? Not even Chug, maybe even in the realms of third party. Are we starting to see a effect of global events that is starting to affect the toy market? It was bound to come the end of it, but are we noticing a bit of cost shaving to compensate come the end of it? And is our hobby suffering as a result of it? Leave a note in the comment below. I'd love to know what you think. But thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you on the next one.